I hope Mr. Johnson doesn't recognize me, Rachel muttered to herself as she walked stealthily and fast to her desk after her 2 days off. Rachel had gone to the saloon and got her hair braided. She also bought some nerdy-looking spectacles, all in an effort to disguise her true self. She was hoping and praying that her boss would not recognize her as the girl from the one-night stand. Putting it that way sounded really shameful. She would definitely lose her job. Rachel had to risk wearing spectacles as she waited for her application to be transferred to another branch to be approved. She did look somewhat different, with hair braided as compared to how she looks in her big curly afro hair. She felt she might be able to stay disguised for a few days before she leaves. Meanwhile, Mr. Johnson also came to his senses that he had shared a night to remember, a night of passion with someone, but could not remember who it was. He just knew it was one of the employees. After Rachel had settled down and was busy working, Mr. Johnson passed by Rachel's desk. He smells that unique flowery smell from Rachel that had intoxicated him during that night to remember. The smell made him replay the events of that night in his mind. Mr. Johnson froze, his heart beating fast. He looked at Rachel for about 5 minutes, scanning her up and down. The smell was exactly the same as the girl he was looking for. Meanwhile, Rachel was shaking like a twig inside and raised her head up slowly in fear to make eye contact with Mr. Johnson. However, after observing how ordinary Rachel looked, wearing her nerdy-looking big spectacles, strange hairstyle, no makeup, Rachel looked like a tomboy. Rachel was definitely not the one. It was just a coincidence, he thought to himself. Of course, Rachel wouldn't look the same because that night she looked super classy, with her hair nicely done and wore makeup. She looked amazing in a red dress that emphasized her curves well. Mr. Johnson did not recognize Rachel as the girl from the one-night stand that he was looking for. After work, Mr. Johnson found Wendy already home wearing beautiful sleepwear, obviously to seduce him. Mr. Johnson was put off by the spicy perfume she was wearing and angrily asked her to get out of his room. He wondered why he was no longer attracted to this girl. The next day he asked Wendy to move out. He told her she was not the girl he was looking for. And since she was not volunteering any information about Rachel, he vowed to find the girl on his own. After 4 weeks, Rachel's secret was still safe, and she was transferred to another branch in another province far away. Rachel just disappeared and relocated without telling anyone, including Wendy, where she was going. Mr. Johnson never saw Rachel again, but he never stopped looking for her. Fast forward 6 years later, Mr. Johnson often found solace in his daily walks through the nearby park, a ritual that allowed him to reflect on the day's events. One afternoon, a chance encounter with a little boy stirred emotions that he had not anticipated. The little boy came and sat next to him in the park as he was reading his book, outside the new retail branch he was now managing. Mr. Johnson was now working at the same branch as Rachel, but they had never met. The little boy holding an ice cream said, "You look extremely bored and lonely." He said either your wife passed away or she dumped you. Mr. Johnson found the little kid interesting. The little kid was quite right. Mr. Johnson felt lonely, and it showed. He asked the little boy for his name, and he said, "My name is Jay. My father passed away. His name was Jay." Mr. Johnson's heart almost stopped, 'cause his name was Jay too. Then the little boy went on, talking about everything that was going on in his life. He told him how he was allergic to strawberries. Now that was getting scary. Mr. Johnson was allergic to strawberries too. There were too many coincidences and similarities between him and this little kid. The little kid even folded his hand towel the exact way he does his. Then the unexpected happened. The mother of the boy came to take the child. As she greeted Mr. Johnson, her eyes lit up in shock. Her whole body froze. "Babe?" Mr. Johnson exclaimed. Rachel quickly excused herself and said he must be mistaking her for someone else. Rachel grabbed the little boy and left in a hurry. Mr. Johnson knew this was the girl he was looking for the past 6 years. He had waited for her for 6 years. Many girls wanted to marry Mr. Johnson, but he kept waiting for Rachel. Mr. Johnson's face brimmed with joy as he marveled at the thought of being with Rachel again. But now he had to contain his excitement because she was probably married. Mr. Johnson asked his bodyguards to trail them to find out where they lived, her relationships, and where she worked, setting the stage for an intriguing continuation. Look out for A Night to Remember Part 3 for more drama. Follow, like, and share, for I am posting exciting stories like these every day.